Hi there, Dave.
Hello, how are you?
I am really well. Thank you so
Great.
much for agreeing to be part of my little series of real life conversations. We are
Fun.
thrilled to have you here with us today. You and I met, I think it's close to a year ago now. It's not
Hmm.
far off.
Yeah.
And you've been a source of knowledge, support, guidance as well. And I am so grateful to you. For me, what's been just incredible is just watching your profile because when I first reached out to you, sounds awful, but I had no idea who you were. Not really. You
Yeah.
were just part of something, and I feel like I struck gold. So thank you for everything that you've done
Ditto.
for me and all of the info that you've shared
So,
over the past 11, 12 months. But I'd love to give you the opportunity to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
and that feeling is very mutual because there has been a number of occasions that I've also picked up the phone or dropped you an email. So I can't thank you enough for your continued support too, and for this amazing opportunity. I'm Dave Wilson Wynn. I'm currently have two roles effectively. I'm the Senior Dementia Consultant within the Dementia Services Development Centre at the University of Stirling, but also co-founded Innovare Dementia Consultancy back in November of last year. So the two roles are very different. DSDC, I work there 2 days a week. My consultancy is 3 days a week. And yeah, DSDC is still the role that gives me the opportunity to really influence policy, as well as working on some really, really unique projects, inquiries that come into the centre, the development of recognised CPD programmes, of still teaching within the university. So I lecture within the nursing and paramedic science, being Dementia Smart module, which I co-developed with a colleague. The Innovare Dementia Consultancy is something completely different to a degree, and it's still kind of early stages, but we're getting there with a few kind of exciting developments. But the consultancy is really an opportunity for me to kind of come away from, I suppose, like a statutory organisation and be on my own, do my own thing. Not necessarily just do what I want to do, but do stuff that I know will create impact in a way that I don't necessarily have any element of. I don't even like using the word constriction, but I think you know what I mean. Um, for me, the consultancy is in and around how we bring training and education and research and innovation together. So we talk about huge, very influential pieces of research that have been done over the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But yet we're still not seeing a lot of that within day-to-day practice. So I kind of view it that it's my job as an independent consultant to really bring that to the forefront for organizations and for even for individuals that just want to learn. And I suppose bringing a real life touch to research, and what we know will work within day-to-day practice.
Amazing. What a blend of two roles and two
Yeah,
jobs, and an incredible
yeah,
opportunity to be able to influence from two different angles, which I think is super cool. But also well earned, right? You don't get to do that without having that knowledge, that expertise, and indeed, I think that reputation. Uh,
yeah.
so for me, I think kudos to you for that. I'd love to learn more about what's the day in the life of Dave like with Innovare.
Oh, for Innovare, I don't want to use the phrase of, no 2 days are the same, because I think to a degree that's often overused. But that is the case, I suppose. I could be talking to someone in America first thing in the morning, and then somebody from Glasgow in the afternoon. It really just depends. The day in the life right now is building a social media platform. So my objective is to utilize social media to our advantage. For me, there are aspects of changes within education that I feel is coming, and that is that I don't necessarily think a lot of our learning is going to be sitting down in a classroom anymore. I think our learning is going to be here, or iPads, because actually that's often the quickest way in which to gain information. And social media, as much as it gets a lot of bad press, also does a heck of a lot of good out there. So the aim is to deliver, and that's what I'm kind of developing at the moment, is kind of short, sharp, quite impactful videos on platforms like the TikTok, utilising stories within the media, and then providing context around it. So we often tend to find that stories in relation to dementia don't necessarily help with things like stigma and fear and all these words that we kind of hear associated with living with a dementia. I view it as it's my job and it's my purpose in which to look at stories that are happening within everyday life and bring them to the forefront, but provide, I think, really importantly, context around why we see these stories within the media, and then provide bigger educational pieces within other platforms like say, YouTube and all these LinkedIn, things like that. So that's currently under development. And then I'm also looking at developing a specific framework, moving away from a person-centeredness model to more of a person-led model. For me, people living with the dementia need to be leading us. They need to be at the forefront. It's their diagnosis. They're the ones in the driving seat. We should merely follow and support them as and when they want us to. So I'm currently in the process of developing a specific framework that will allow providers, care providers, to, I suppose, evidence how truly person-led that they are, embedding that within a human rights-based approach to care as well. We all talk about it, but again, do we actually see it in day-to-day practice? So that's quite exciting. So that's it. That'll be a new development of a framework. And out with that, it's liaison with I suppose clients and organisations literally in all corners of the globe that are looking to bring together co-design, lived experience and research, and helping a whole vast array of different organisations to better the care that they provide to people who are living with a dementia and their wider support networks.
Wow. Well, that's a lot.
Yeah. Apart from that, it's pretty quiet.
Amazing stuff. And I know that there are many people that are very grateful for your insights and help. And even though I am not known for my love of things like TikTok, I absolutely will look with interest to see what I can learn. Because obviously I am here as a business owner and a founder of something brand new. But ultimately, the only reason I'm here doing those two things is because I'm a daughter of someone with dementia. And my whole reason for being right now is to try and learn and keep getting better at the role of care. And it's not something I've had any formal training in. I have found myself in this world. And I wrote just a couple of days ago about the art of listening differently.
Yeah.
And in the corporate world, we all go on active listening courses and it's all about reading, hearing the words, but reading all of the other signs.
Yeah.
And I realized for me how important it was to be led by my mum. So just listening to what you said and then playing that back to my own world as communication in the form of words has reduced so dramatically now. The other cues that I get from my mum allow me to follow her and what she needs and wants. She tells me one hell of a lot through her facial expression, through her body movement, and often the tone that any noises that come out give me. When someone isn't happy, and it doesn't have to form a full sentence. And that allows me to adjust, adapt, change, or keep going.
Yeah.
And from a care perspective, there's nothing greater than feeling like you're doing the right thing by the person you're caring for. So that's my very own little real world example of person-led care. And I do agree with you. I
I think
think,
it's that bit, isn't it, of whereby people often talk that when it comes to communication and dementia care, people seem to be obsessed with actual verbal communication, but yet in the other parts of care practice, or like you say within the corporate world, we all know that a huge percentage of our communication is just us. It's how we appear, it's how we dress, it's our body language. But yet, when it comes to that aspect of person-led care, people will often say to me, how are you going to evidence a person-led approach for people living with an advanced dementia? Well, for me, that's not the person living with the dementia that needs to change, that's us. And exactly like you've said, I can tell a lot about how a person's feeling, decisions that they want to make by physical movement, by facial expression. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's your mum giving you those signals that yeah, you know her best, but also there are times that your mum will make it very obvious that no, I don't want that to happen, without once ever having to open her mouth. And
exactly. And it's so funny. I've heard you talk about person-led care many times, but sitting and writing those few words down that I wrote for a recent post really brought that home for me. What does that actually mean in real life? And there you go, person-led care, real life. For me, that's our two businesses in one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So your busy day, absolutely. Well, it's shining through. You're a difficult man to get hold of often as well.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the biggest myths that there are out there around dementia.
Right, so that's really interesting. So I often hear things like good dementia care is just being kind. And yeah, kindness is a huge factor in it, but we can't just say that our care practice is good because we're being kind to someone. Kindness matters, but so does skill, so does knowledge, so does design, so does language. So for me, it's that whole point of, intentions aren't always enough. Practice matters. So I would probably say that's definitely one myth. I would probably say a second point is that safety means taking control. So for me, there's this huge debate that still continues to happen in and around how do we still give people living with a dementia, the opportunity to take risk. Now, even with me saying that and how I'm saying that, it still assumes that I'm in control. So I will give them the opportunity. But for me, it's about real safety comes from understanding what that risk is, but not eliminating that autonomy that a person has. So dignity and safety should always work together. They shouldn't compete. And it's how we do support people who are living with a dementia to still continue to take risks every day. And I suppose the third myth which again I hear an awful lot about, is a lot of dementia care is just common sense. So if you just utilize your common sense, you'll get by. It's not. It's really, really skilled work that requires robust evidence. It requires continual learning. So again, not just within the roles that I currently am in, but in previous roles, I would often hear people saying, I can't believe I'm on dementia training again because I was only on it 3 years ago. As a consultant with a master's in dementia, any new training course that comes out, I'll be the first one to sign up to it because I need to always continue to learn. And a lot of my learning comes from people living with the dementia themselves because they're the true expert. Yeah, we can learn from other academics, we can learn from other researchers and things, but nothing will compare to lived experience and how they live with their dementia every day. So and attached to that is something that we don't do an awful lot of, or as much as we should, is reflection. So always reflecting upon it. So it's not just about common sense, it's evidence, reflection, continual learning. Good care never happens by accident, in my opinion.
Wow, they're very cool. The one that resonates with me so much is something I heard for the first time last October. I had the opportunity to visit a couple of memory care centres, as they're known, in the US.
Yep.
And I noticed the different approach that there was around doors to the garden.
Okay.
Doors to the garden are open. Anyone can go out whenever they like. The garden is secure, of course. Dignity in risk was one of this particular care or memory care centre's mantras. Don't stop somebody going outside if they don't have their coat and they don't want to wear their coat. Allow them to go outside with some measured understanding of what might happen. Most likely, they'll feel chilly and come back in.
Yeah.
The dignity and the risk is allowing that choice to be made still.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Knowing that 5 minutes, 10 minutes is probably not a huge risk factor.
No. And it's the detriment that has on that person if they don't have that opportunity to. You're absolutely right. It's trying to look at it in the respect of, when was the last time you walked into a hospital ward or a care home and witnessed somebody making their own cup of tea, making their own sandwich, making their own lunch? And yet we all take risks every day. That's what makes us human. I was delivering a lecture to mental health officers at the university last week, and we spoke at length about this. And I said, how many of you drove here today? Yeah, quite a few. I think pretty much everybody did. And I said, did you ever get in your car and get halfway down the dual carriageway and think, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to have to pull over because a car could veer over and smack into the front of me? Well, no, we don't. We just do it because, one, we need to get to work. When you talk about being outside, I often used to get quite frustrated as to when a little spitter of rain, and no, everybody needs to come back in. We can't let people sit outside in the spit and rain. Strangely enough, I remember my dad telling me one time that he absolutely loves going out walking in the rain. And that's him. And yet, actually, when was the last time that people experienced that touch or the sound of falling rain or snow or whatever it may be? Yeah, the minute the sun's out, everybody then goes out with their hats on and their ice lollies and everything's all lovely. But actually, it's about that point, like you say, taking that risk of, if somebody wants to go out in the pouring rain, that shouldn't be viewed as a bad thing or a negative thing. It's probably what they've always done. So
because that's life.
Exactly.
And it really, really resonated with me. I came home and I really thought about how much that had been taken away from my mum.
Yeah.
Inadvertently, through the most love and respect that we could muster. Nobody was doing it intentionally, but we were removing choice where there was still choice absolutely available to be had.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible thing. And it really made me think. It really made me reflect. And so that point of yours, I think, is an incredible one around a myth of dementia, that you have to remove risk. You don't. We should always calculate risk and be comfortable with less good choices from perfection being made, because that's life.
Yeah.
Come on then, hit me with no political answers here.
Nope.
What are your top 3 wishes for those with dementia? And I did say dementia, it was just a very quiet one.
Yeah. I would say for them to lead us all, and for them to be removed from the centre of practice, from the centre of policy, from the centre of training and education, and for them to be right at the front, right at the forefront, and telling us all how we should be doing this. What I would love to see is people living with the dementia who, like what we do at the university, they're the ones that stand up and lecture the students. they are the ones that will sit around tables and lead on policy development. I want to see this true person-led approach to care coming in. We need to evolve, we need to constantly change. And to quote the kind of main man himself of Professor Tom Kitwood, that's exactly what he said we should do. And that is that care will continue to evolve on the basis that we're always listening to people who are living with the dementia. And that should always be exactly what we do. The second one I would probably say is for there to be a minimum standard of dementia design, and for people living with the dementia to be leading this. So I wouldn't be sitting here as an employee of the Dementia Services Development Centre if I didn't pop in a little bit about the importance of design. Our environment is the biggest non-pharmacological intervention we can provide to help reduce some of the symptoms that people living with dementia will experience. And yet it never gets the credit it deserves. When I hear people talking all the time about the promotion of well-being, staffing, how to promote staff well-being. I was just watching a television programme that long ago about dementia on the television. And what I found really interesting is they spoke about the kind of clinical factors. So they spoke about treatments available and a whole host of other things. And sadly, not once was the environment mentioned and how we design spaces. So for me, what I'd love to see is for people living with the dementia to have their voice heard. And that is that when it comes to the design of environments, particularly within care environments, we need to start advocating for a minimum standard of design, because we know that good dementia design works.
100%. I love that.
The third one for me would just be consistent language, and for us all to take that ownership of just how much language and terminology evolves within dementia care. So words or concepts that might have been historically always part of dementia care doesn't necessarily mean to say that it should always remain there. Mm-hmm. And for me, this kind of biggest one, which is the one that kind of got quite a bit of attention on the old LinkedIn, was the dementia. And it's just such a subtle change, but it means such a huge difference for people who are living with dementia. That myth of, I live with dementia, David has dementia, that's it. And with that is associated with, well, it's because it's just memory loss. Well, actually, it's so much more than that. Actually, it's everything else, really. When we talk about dementia, that's something that I would want people living with the dementia have told me, yeah, well, that makes a huge difference to me, because the next question that people often ask me is, oh, so what type of dementia is it you're living with? And I can talk to them very openly about my frontotemporal dementia and the changes that may bring. I might talk to them about the rarer dementia that I have that makes it difficult for me to perhaps see or differentiate colours of tones of colour, all these different things. So yeah, definitely the person-led approach, the design, and the constant evolution of language for me is the kind of 3 wishes that I would have for those living with the dementia.
If I had a magic wand, I would grant those for you straight away.
That would be very kind of you.
Because there is nothing that I disagree with there. I could talk to you all day, and you and I have had some great conversations over the time that we've known each other. One of the things around your first point around listening to those with a dementia and really hearing is, in order for that to be much more accepted, the stigma associated with dementia has to be removed, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not sure that we're there yet. And I feel like that might help us unlock the door to what you are describing as that true person-led care. But there's maybe not yet enough voices that are willing to talk about their world because of the stigma associated with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much of that is just my naive daughter approach and my knowledge from a much smaller pool of experience than obviously people like yourself have. But I'd just love to know your opinion on that.
I think for me, the stigma associated with dementia, for me to change the narrative, it's doing exactly what we're doing now. It starts with a conversation. That's all it can take. And the hope is that for people that are sitting, watching this, listening to this, is they'll just perhaps take that few moments out to say, oh, wait a minute, I've not really thought about it in that way before. Yeah, a dementia may change a person's brain, but it doesn't change their worth. It doesn't change their personhood. It doesn't change. I'm a huge believer in that regardless of how advanced a dementia becomes, the person is still in there. It's up to you and I to get them out. And that is easily achievable if we know the person, we know what's meaningful to them, we know what perhaps makes them happy, but also what makes them sad. I have this kind of bugbear of mine, is that when a person living with a dementia becomes upset or frustrated, there's this feeling of we have to immediately reinforce it with positivity. For me, it's not about that. It's actually, if a person living with a dementia, and I've seen it myself, family members who have been affected by dementia who have become emotional, I've not immediately corrected it or reinforced it with positivity. I've just sat with them in the moment. And I think that for me is what it's about. People often will say, and I've heard it from people living with dementia themselves, is that we've coated dementia in a lot of very flowery, to a degree, false positivity. What people living with dementia want us to be is honest and realistic. And that again starts with just that conversation. And it's exactly like what you and I are doing right now. Even if one person listens to this and watches this and it changes their perspective on what dementia is and their outlook, we've done our job very successfully, because then that one person can go on to influence the world. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I tell you what, I don't think we should end it anywhere else but there. Dave, thank you.
Sounds good to me.
For your time. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Always. And very best of luck with your consultancy and your continued work with the DSDC, which I agree is so incredibly important.